everyone. I'm so glad that so many of you came here today. Well, I honestly didn't expect such a big crowd for a presentation about an ice cream. But I promise, it won't be just about an ice cream. It's about designing for decision and how even such small things like choosing a flavor can inspire better products. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. Again, I'm Gabriela, and I'm product designer at AV System, when I work on digital products and internal tools for Lood. And if you're from Krakow or from Warsaw, there's a good chance that you already know the brand. But for everyone else, please let me give you a quick intro. Lood is Polish local artisan ice cream company with almost 40 locations, headquartered in Krakow and expanding into Warsaw. And yes, the name is a bit of wordplay. It makes more sense in Polish, I promise. Okay, but what really makes Lood special, of course, among amazing artisan quality of products, is how digital it is. Some of you may already know our Lood mobile app, our flagship product, or maybe you've seen the digital signage before, or maybe you've seen our website. These are those guest-facing products, guest-facing touchpoints, but that's just the tip of an iceberg here. Beyond them, there's a whole digital ecosystem of internal tools that my team at AV System designs, develops, and maintains. So what's beneath that surface? We've built our own point of sale system. It was here. Yeah, you can see it in every shop. Logistics and delivery planning systems, apps for drivers, for production managers, and the warehouse management tools also. Even a recipe management system connecting production systems and our mobile app to show you ingredients and allergens of each flavor. And yes, we've also made our own self-service topping dispenser we call the Joy Station. But as you can see now, it's not just about an ice cream. It's a whole complex digital ecosystem. But today, I'd like to focus on one specific part of that ecosystem, our digital signage. These are the screens above the counter showing the pricing, additional products like coffee or toppings, and of course the flavors available in current location. But the signage isn't standalone. It pulls data directly for our central systems. The same information appears in Lood app, where guests can check flavors in any of our shops, in our web delivery app, even, and it shows the dedicated web page. So it's one ecosystem, different touchpoints, powered by the same data. But starting from the very, very beginning, why screens at all? Why not a chalkboard with handwritten flavors? Wouldn't that feel more artisan? Well, there were several reasons we went digital. First, flexibility. The offer itself differs depending on the shop. And our flavors change daily, and often even in the middle of the day. When one flavor runs out and gets replaced, the screen updates instantly, asking staff to rewrite the chalkboards, especially during a rush, with long queue in front of them would definitely be chaotic. And visibility matters too. People can read the screen even from the queue, without having to walk up to the counter. Screens also allow us to present all information clearly. Many of our guests have dietary needs. They want to know, is that flavor vegan? Does it contain gluten or any other allergens? And that's too much detail to fit clearly on a blackboard. Another reason is efficiency. With central updates, we can be sure that every location displays current information, correct information. We have real-time previews from each location. We also can introduce changes with almost no delay. And most importantly, without distracting staff from serving our guests. But coming to the redesign, this is what our digital signage looked like before. Both the old version and the new one consist of at least 2 screens. One screen to show pricing and products, and another additional 1 or 2 to show available flavors. But with this old design, there were several recurring problems. The biggest and the most important one was the paging on the flavor screen. When more than 10 flavors were available, they were split into 2 pages, and that happened very often. So it was extremely frustrating when the page was turned right in the middle of reading. And on the other hand, if you managed to read all the flavors quicker, then you had to wait until the pages switch to see the rest. And by the time it did, many people had just already forgotten what they saw on the first page. Okay, so what was my challenge here? Of course, to redesign the signage so that as many flavors as it's possible are visible on the same time. The information is clear, and the system actually helps our guests to make a decision. Of course, I started by conducting research, not only competitive and desk one, but also interviews with our staff, who deals with our guests on a daily basis, and of course with the guests themselves. I decided to go back to the very basis and ask myself, what is digital signage really for? Its purpose is simple, to help our guests choose which flavor they want to eat. And of course, because all flavors at Lood are amazing, which makes it a pretty tough decision. After all, deciding what to eat is one of the hardest existential struggles of adult life, right? But to understand this decision-making process, I created and tested a few versions of the signage, and I showed them to our guests and asked questions afterwards. Okay, a little bit of glitch. I observed how the guests interacted with our test version, and of course some people came in for their favorites. So always the same choices, no surprises there. And in our app, you can also check the current flavors in picked locations. So there were some people that they told me that they have already checked the flavors before arriving or while standing in the queue. So they were in the group I was interested the most in the terms of the redesign. I focused on the largest group, and the most important one for me was those guests who make their decision in front of digital signage. And here's the fascinating part. Most of us, when choosing flavors, when choosing what we want to eat, follow a very similar pattern. First, we enter the shop and think what's on today. So we scan the menu and get to know all available options. Then we start thinking, maybe pistachio, mango, or that new chocolate flavor. So we pick a few favorites and narrow down the options. Next comes an elimination. This one I've already had, this one is creamy, this one I'm not in the mood for, and this one is creamy, but today I feel like a sorbet. And finally, we repeat those eliminations until the choice is clear. And of course, usually the winner isn't just the one flavor, because you can order 3 or 2 scoops. So our inner monologues continue, so maybe pistachio and maybe mango with it. And this is the real decision-making process that the signage needs to support. So based on my observations, I began designing a layout that would truly support the decision-making process. The goal was clear, to make it possible to scan all available options at once, give just enough information to imagine all flavor, to weigh those pros and cons, and ultimately, to help our guests make a confident choice. So, with all respect to the minimalism, I couldn't imagine designing it without images. And here's the thing, we really do eat with our eyes. When it comes to food, showing what it looks like, the texture, the color, the ingredients, makes the choice so much easier and so much more tempting. Technically, it was easy to organize because we already had a photo for each flavor in our app. or on our social media also. So bringing the same visuals into the signage was a quite natural step. That also created the consistency. If our guest sees that in our app that today's special is strawberry pavlova and it has this kind of photo, this kind of ingredients, when it comes to the shop, they instantly recognize the same image that they saw before. And that moment of recognition connects the dots. Yeah, that's what I came for, that's what I saw. So from there, it was just about fine-tuning. One of those details I wanted to test was the use of icons. As a product designer, I'm quite used to relying on icons while creating a UI. So naturally, I created a layout with icons for flavor categories. So sorbet versus vegan versus cream-based, etc. But the results of the tests surprised me. Many of our guests simply ignored the icons. They have struggled to answer the questions, do you see which flavor is vegan or which flavor is sorbet? And I wonder also why. And then it clicked. The context matters. Apps are usually used in the calm environment, at home, in the office. The user has time to scroll, to read, to decode the icons. What's more important, we are familiar with those symbols on the devices like phones, like smartphones or desktops. But the signage is complete opposite. You're standing in a busy shop or shopping mall, maybe with kids, bags, or a dog. There's noise, conversations, advertising screens, and of course the ice cream counter itself fighting for your attention. In that environment, the brain works differently. It's too busy processing more urgent signals. You don't carefully decode the icons, the symbols. You look for the biggest, the clearest cues for color, images, bold text. Anything subtle, like small icons, risk being ignored. But we still wanted to show essential information, to communicate honestly, to answer our guests' questions even before they ask them. So, based on all these observations and tests, we finally arrived at the design that you can see here and in our shops. The system consists as the previous one, consists of two core parts, a pricing screen and a flavor screen. The design, though here, is fully modular. Depending on the offer and particular location, we can rearrange or swap out the modules on the pricing screen without breaking overall structure. For example, when a particular shop offers toppings, we show the topping module. You can see it as well. And if it serves also coffee or any other kind of products, we show the coffee module. And if it don't serve, for example, this topping, we can swap out the module and show it without the topping, for example. Okay, but as the product range has grown, we also had to find space for things like nut spreads or creams. And we solve this with a rotating slider. That's the slider with jars that you can see here. And here, each product gets a moment of focus. And of course, I know, it might sound like the same problem that we've had with paging. But here, all the jars are still visible behind the counter. So guests always see the full offer in front of them, while the screen helps us to use the digital space more efficiently. On the flavor screen, on the left. Yeah, that's left. On the flavor screen, well, I introduced something like a featured flavor. This is the big tile that you can see on the left side on the flavor screen. And the smaller flavored tiles, which came in two sizes, depending on how many flavors we need to show at once. The featured flavor. The featured flavor is a special element in the layout. It highlights the brand core's one of the brand's core value, that every day is a new flavor of the day, usually something new to discover. With a larger image and a short description, it adds context and a small story about the flavor. It is especially useful when we've got flavors with more poetic names. It draws attention and makes them more memorable with this small story. And also, by reusing the same visuals across the app, signage, and social media, we keep consistent brand communication. The whole project was designed to show as many flavors as it's possible, while still maintaining clear readability. So I prepared a flexible pattern that can either adjust the size of the tiles, of the flavor tiles, or add one or more featured flavors. The bigger tiles appear in the layout that can fit up to 15 flavors. That's the layout on the left. Yeah, right, on the right. And the smaller tiles allows us to fit up 3 more, so up to 18 flavors at once. And that's the layout on the left. Split it into pages. Yeah, it still happens, but only when we exceed 18 flavors. And that's relatively rare. Also, in many locations, we have 2 flavor screens available. So there we can present up to 36 flavors at once, and that's a pretty big number. This is, for example, a situation when we've got 70 flavors available. But at this shop, we have 2 screens to display the flavor. And also, interesting fact come during a test. It was that we need to duplicate the flavor and show it both on the flavors list and as a featured flavor. And many people just didn't notice it. I also wondered why. And here's when the banner blindness comes in. Big tiles, busy environment, there are the queue, all the stuff we mentioned before, and also the pressure to make the decision quickly. It makes our brain treat the list as a menu. Everything else gets labeled as nice, catchy, but overall less important. So after solving an issue of banner blindness, I faced another challenge, because not every shop looks the same. In some locations, all screens are vertical. So I had to rethink the layout and adapt it to the format as well. I adjusted the size of the featured flavor. In vertical layouts, I decided to use the larger tiles. The same tiles that I used in the horizontal layouts that could fit up to 15 flavors. But here, in a vertical layout, we can show up to 18 flavors at once. Also, interesting thing that came up during test was that many people should be wearing glasses, and they know it, but they usually don't do it. They just openly admitted that they might not be the best test user because they can barely see the screen without the glasses, and they left it at home. And you may wonder, what about the language? Because all the screens I've shown you so far were in Polish. As we are in Poland and we are serving Poland guests, but we've got many of international guests. So we solved it with a simple module. Each shop has a unique web page showing the flavors available in this shop, in this location. The web page is available in Polish, English, and Ukrainian language. And it opens right after scanning a QR code. The QR code are placed inside the shops, and also the webpage is linked to our Google Maps site of each point of interest of each shop. And if someone doesn't speak Polish, the staff can point out the code, or the guest can simply notice it and scan it and use it, of course. And to make it even more visible, in some location, we display the QR code on the signage directly here. For example, in the shop on Grodzka Street, when we've got a lot of international tourists, so it's really useful there. So how it's going? To make sure that design really worked, I ran final usability tests with our guests. In the latest reviews, 80% of our guests said that the flavors are presented in the readable way. 70% said that it's clear to them which flavors are vegan and which flavors are water-based. And 83% of interviewed guests said that the pricing screen is clear and easy to understand. So that's all. Thank you for your attention. I hope this case study gave you some inspiration and maybe make you a little bit hungry. So to wrap things up, we've prepared a small gift for you with the magic word, context matters. You can get 10% discount at our event stand. We call it Lood card, by the way. So please come by, say hi, and of course, enjoy some ice cream. Thank you so much.